guys, Patriot Picker here. My name is Chris. We're down in the eBay bunker. And here's a question I have for you. Are there certain people that you like to watch on YouTube and certain people you don't? You know, that's a tough question. And it sounds like a rough question. But the reality is it's true. There are some you like to watch and there are some you don't. And those of us who are making YouTube videos, we're doing what we can in hopes that you enjoy watching us. But there's one more thing that I want to share before we jump into this video, and that is this guy that you're about to see, he's one of those guys you just want to watch. Why? That's a great question too. One, it's because he's just down to earth. He's a family guy, and he loves reselling. And the proof of that is in his video content. If you watch him, you will know that his heart is invested. And that's what we like about reselling, is it's so much fun, and if you do it from the heart, there's nothing else that matters. So sit back. I've got another special guest that come for a second visit, and you know him all too well as Commonwealth Picker. So grab your Joe, grab your Coke, or grab your hot chocolate and sit back for another interview with none other than, here's Kevin. Hey guys, it's Patriot Picker, and we have another surprise guest for you. He's been here before. He's back.
It's because they give me things. You know? I came up, I got water.
Oh yeah.
Dinner's next, right? I think.
Oh, we didn't think about that. So we got to cook dinner. What's your favorite food?
Burritos.
Burritos.
I was born in Southern California, so it's
okay.
I love Mexican food. Fish tacos. You know.
All right, sounds good to me. La Coretta, here we go. So, Kevin Brown from Commonwealth Picker is with us again. And we're going to go through and ask some questions that I believe and he believes to be very helpful to you guys out there in the e-commerce world. But before we get really deep into our questions, what I'd like to do is give Kevin a chance to kind of tell a little bit about, maybe just briefly, your history and how you got started in the whole eBay world.
Well, I am getting close to about 20 years reselling, and basically I'm a school teacher, and so it was almost out of necessity, but it was also out of curiosity. eBay was fairly new. I mean, not fairly new to everybody, but it was fairly new to me, and it hadn't been around that long, maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years or so. And I just fell across a particular item, and I'd heard about eBay, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna see if this thing sells, and it sold. And I made, probably not more than $4.50 on the item or so.
You were addicted.
It wasn't much. and I thought, you know, you just multiply that out times 1,000 and I'm going to make enough to pay my bills. And it just started from there. That was back in 2001.
Okay. All right. So been going at it for quite a while. So a lot of experience. So we're going to jump into the questions now, guys. And the first question is going to be something that myself and a lot of you guys out there that are subscribers to my channel, you know Kevin, you follow Kevin on his channel as well. We're going to ask him a little bit of how do you manage your time being a full-time teacher? That's your job, and you love it. We know that. So how do you make all of that work and manage all of it? You know, you've got a source, you've got to go to the post office, you've got to do YouTube channel, you know, you got all this going on. How do you put all that together and make it work, man?
Well, you know, it's a question I actually get a lot by a lot of people who have YouTube channels, and they watch me like, how in the world do you do this? Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's a couple of things I would say, and I'm not positive, but I would just say this, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but you know, it's hard work for sure. But I'm a creature of habit. Anybody that's been around me knows that I form habits, good and bad, and it's just the way I am. So for me, because I'm that way, it's easy. You know, I wake up at this time, this is what I do, and then this is what I do, and then this is what I do. I find it difficult in this era of, you know, social distancing and this era of not going to school for a little while here, hopefully for a little while. I find it difficult to do as much as I do when I do have to do those things. So I'm probably accomplishing the same amount now as I would if I was going to school every day and going to baseball every day. And that just seems completely opposite of what would happen. But that's where I'm at right now. I like structure and discipline, and I like doing this. So I have to create new habits now that I'm off school. I do that in the summertime. So I'm trying to take my summertime routine and apply it right now when we're not at school right now. But typically in my school year, you know, teaching to me is second nature. It is just absolutely second nature. I don't know why that is. I like the psychology of kids and understanding kids and what makes them tick and what they respond to and what they don't respond to. And I love history, so I don't think much about it. I don't have to put much planning into it. I just literally roll out of bed and I teach. Okay. So not quite literally, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And so when teaching is done, when that classroom part is done, I got to check off all the boxes, the bureaucratic boxes that need checked off. But after that, the time that I have at school, a lot of times I can accomplish 2 or 3 things. I can list a couple things. And I have these particular times during the day. I'm like, okay, it's right now. I get to list 2 items real quick. And then I'll edit this video. You know, I edit my videos in pieces. And I'm like, okay, I've got 5 minutes here to edit this piece right here, and I'll do this. And so I find a way to squeeze, 9 hours of work into 7.5 hours. And that's just because I'm pretty disciplined about what I do. Same thing, coaching baseball is easy. I don't have to think about it or make plans for it. Now I'm not even a head coach, so I just do what somebody else tells me. I just do it, and then I get home, and then I have, this is what I do at this time. This is what I do at this time. But in all honesty, there's not a lot of other things I do in my life. I don't have a lot of hobbies, I would say. I don't have things that take up a lot of my time. I don't watch a lot of television. Per se, I'll watch the news, or I'll watch one particular show, or maybe 2 a day at the very most. And I spend time with my kids here, and the kids get to do things with me. It's just a matter of discipline and having goals and setting goals and having expectations. This is how many things I'm going to do today, and just doing it over and over. And I guess it's just habit, and I enjoy it. That's the other thing. There's not anything that I really hate about any of those things. I enjoy editing videos. I enjoy eBay. I enjoy teaching, and I enjoy coaching.
So would you say that you have help sometimes?
For sure. My wife helps. Now, she is not like me at all. She's not habitual like that at all. She wouldn't mind me saying this. I don't think you would anyways. Would you, Blue Ridge Mom?
Hey, Blue Ridge Mom.
And she tolerates me, I suppose, and she understands me. And I'll say, hey, could you list 2 things a day? And she's like, sure, no problem. And then she won't list 2 things for like 3 days, and I'll look at her like, would you list 2 things? Okay. But then she'll list 8 or 12, and then she's done for a while. And you're like, you know what? That's fine. That's her. That's the way she does things. She's got to allow me to do things my way, and I'm going to have to let her do things her way. And so she's really helpful. But if I ask her, I was like, can you do this for me? If I need some help, I'm busy that day, she'll do that, and she'll do the same with me. So she might tell me, hey, put down that camera and get off of YouTube and stop answering those comments. And get in here and do this. And I can tell by the tone of her voice that this is when she really means it, and so we do that. So.
It's good to have that reinforcement in the background, isn't it? All right, so moving right along, we've got another question for you here. This is really helpful to the new reseller, the person out there who hasn't quite pulled the trigger yet, but is entertaining it. What kind of advice would you give them to get started? All
right, so there's 2 different kinds here. This is, people that have been reselling a little while, or people that haven't been reselling at all. So if you've been reselling a little while, you already know a lot of this, but I'm just going to say a couple things to those brand new folks getting started. The first thing I would say is don't go out and source a bunch if you're just getting started. Okay. Go ahead and just source your own house. Look around your own house and start selling, looking up items. Get used to looking up items. Get the eBay app and look up items and sell your own things first. and know the system, learn the rules, how it works, and do it with your own items so you're not outlaying a bunch of cash. And create some kind of a system.
Right.
Second thing for folks that have been doing it a little bit of time is to be selective. You're never going to regret. Well, I shouldn't say never. You're not often going to regret not picking up an item at a thrift store or at a garage sale. A lot of times you do end up regretting things you did pick up because they're sitting over there in the corner and they're just not something that you want to list. You got to clean it. You got to do things, and it's all for a profit of $6. And so I would say be selective at the beginning and pick items that you are interested in and items that you want to sell and you know a little bit about at the beginning, and then you can ease into other categories as you go. Learn shipping first, probably. After you learn how, what to price and how to list an item. But you've got to learn shipping. A lot of the earliest mistakes that eBayers make, early new eBayers make, are with shipping. Yeah. And so I would say to watch a few videos about shipping. I have one out, shameless plug. You can go to Commonwealth Flipper and you can check that one out. There's a couple of them on there.
And we'll link those.
Nice,
yep.
link them.
I'll link them for you guys.
But it's not just me. There's so many people out there. Learn shipping. I think that's a key to even new eBay resellers. It took me a long time. There are a lot of things about shipping that I didn't know until 2 years ago or last year. And there's a lot of new things that I've learned from other YouTubers out there as well. And different tricks, constantly changing. You know what? It's not constantly changing. It's usually prices are changing and different methods. So take the time to learn shipping, I think, is key as well. Maybe a couple more little pieces of advice, but I think that'll be sufficient for those new eBay resellers.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, so here's an interesting question. I think this is one that probably I get a lot myself, is what do you source? How do you know what to source? So, Kevin, what would you say to the question of, if you could narrow down like your top 3 things that you kind of always are on the lookout for, what are they and why?
Well, I might disappoint you. I'm not going to give you I might give you the specific 3 categories at the end of this. But the reality is, you hear me say it on my channel, I am the jack of all trades and master of none. Yeah. So I don't even really subscribe to the idea of looking at particular categories. Okay. Now, having said that, I could probably give you some categories based on what I do. You could just watch my show and see the things that I typically sell. But if you watch what I'm selling, it is a very eclectic mix. So I'll give you, if you make me here, I'll give you some categories. But I'm just going to advocate for being a jack of all trades. Not for a beginner, but eventually adding different categories to the mix and just expanding out from what you typically do. And then you will find that you will change over time. You will morph out of categories and into others. I've done that. I've morphed out of jeans and into, say jewelry over the years. Okay. So those are some things that I think are good because eBay changes too, and the desire of people and the shipping constructs change, and jeans became very difficult to sell because of the cost of Friday mail flat rate going up a little bit, and it made it harder. But the bigger thing is people don't wear jeans like they used to. Right. If you're a high school history teacher, like I am, every single kid came into your classroom wearing jeans. Boys, girls, all of them, like 95% would wear jeans. Now you look in a classroom and maybe 10 to 15% are wearing jeans. So, moving in and out of categories, I think, is key. So keeping up with the trends. You got it. Yep. Being locked into categories is all that important. Some people think, electronics is on its way out because everything is digital and you have a phone that does 50 different things. Well, that hasn't been the case at all for me. Everybody stopped making a lot of those things, and so they become nostalgic. I love to listen to cassettes. So cassette players are something that, if you find the right one, can sell. So there's a category that I like to sell. Electronics, vintage electronics are good, but they're not all good, so you got to be careful. Jewelry is one that I think is really key these days as well. Even watches, people don't wear watches because you got the phone on, you got the clock on your phone. But watches have become good, and I want to learn a little bit more and get better at that. clothing is clothing.
Right.
So I hear a lot of people down on clothing, and I understand why, especially in times like this. But clothing is one of my best sellers. I think if you looked at my category sales,
yep.
I think if you looked at my category sales, you would see that clothing is something I sell every single day.
Yep.
But I'm not locked into clothing at all because there's trends with that too.
Right.
So I don't like to be locked into any category.
Okay.
I like them all. And you'll hear me talk about reverse looking things up, which is probably a bad term for it. But if you know a little bit in each category to be dangerous, you're going to find the good items. Like we talk about board games back here. You know, I've sold Hero Quests before. Different board games are going to be really, really good money. I know how to find gold jewelry, silver jewelry. I didn't used to, but I learned that category. I'm learning a little bit more about cameras as the years go by. I think that's an interesting category to look at. And so I think you got to add categories to your repertoire, and even the categories that you're exiting, like I don't sell too many board games anymore, you still know the best. You know, I know the best jeans, for instance, although there's not that many good ones out there anymore, especially where we're at.
Right.
You know, I see you sell a lot of scrub tops. When I see particular kinds that I know will sell, I'll get those. But I don't sell scrubs in general. So I don't like the idea of looking at particular categories, but if I was forced into it, I think today I love jewelry. Even though you don't see me sell a lot of it, it's because I hoard it. I'll sell some in the future. I love vintage electronics. I love clothing, as strange as that may seem. I hate shoes, but I know which shoes to buy. Okay. And I'll go out and pick up certain kinds of shoes that I begrudgingly will list. Okay. So I don't know. If I had to give you one other category, I would say household useful. I sell a lot of vacuum cleaners. Right. I love selling that kind of stuff. So okay. That's a non-answer answer. I hope it's sufficient.
We got it. We cornered him.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
All right. So we're going to ask one more question, guys. We value Kevin's time and we appreciate him being here today with us. Kevin, what would you say to the person who is thinking about starting? They're in eBay, they are in e-commerce, they've figured all that out, but they're starting to entertain the idea of getting into the YouTube world. What would you say the pros and cons are there?
Well, this is a question, and I get this question every once in a while. I'm going to give you a couple answers that you wouldn't necessarily get from a lot of people. I don't think it's clear cut as to, you know, should you do this or should you not. So there's a couple of benefits that I'm going to say right off the bat, and then I might crush your hopes a little bit. The benefits are that you're going to join a community of resellers. Now, you can do that as a YouTuber or as somebody who watches YouTube. So there's not a huge benefit to necessarily being inside of that YouTube eBay reseller world. I was just a watcher of many shows for a long, long time. And I felt like I knew these folks and they were helping me, which was an awesome feeling. And it did help me quite a bit. But there are some downsides to it as well. Now, if you're successful at YouTube and you can get enough watchers and get all the criteria involved, you can make a little bit of money. There's no doubt about it. But at what cost? So I don't want to sound like, you know, hey, I have a YouTube channel that's doing well and you shouldn't do it. But there are a couple things that you should keep in mind. It is a lot of work. Right. And it's also an expense. And it's an expense in two ways. It's an expense to buy the equipment. It's an expense to get different subscriptions to do different things. There's a lot of money involved in starting the process. So if you want to and enjoy sharing what you do, I would encourage you to do it, but don't have false expectations. You know, it took me over 1,000 hours to get to the point where I made a dime on YouTube. And so what's the opportunity cost here? How much time did I sacrifice doing eBay, which was a guaranteed moneymaker, in order to do this, which is a bit of a gamble, if you will. And if it wouldn't have paid off for me, in which it did to some degree, I mean, just look, I sell 5 NMN a day. I mean, that's a little bit of money right there. But, I started doing this with a lot of other people at the same time. And I consider this, my show as kind of the third wave of YouTube resellers. And now there's a fourth wave that's just a massive wave of people. It's really competitive. And I don't want people to think that it's going to be just a cash cow giving you money. For the great majority of people, it's going to be just the opposite. It's going to be sucking money from you because you're not listing and selling items on eBay.
Right.
And
good point.
It sounds awful. And, saying, yeah, I'm making a little bit of money on doing this and it's been successful for me, but that's the reality of it. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. It takes some skill to some degree. I mean, I'm not skilled in a lot of things, but I can yap pretty good. It takes a lot of money as well at the get-go. I've invested a lot of money into this. And I think the opportunity cost of what I've done with YouTube and got out of YouTube up to this point is almost a wash. Now, my channel has grown enough that it's going to, in the end, it's going to turn out to be a money maker for me. I hope. Cross my fingers.
Yeah, we all do.
But there are some other big advantages. I have met so many people, and I feel like I'm really part of this big community and learned so much. And I've kind of broke down my own personal barriers a little bit and experimented with things that I'm not used to. And it feels good to do that. So there are tons of reasons why you should and tons of reasons why you shouldn't. Just don't have false expectations by looking at other people telling you to do this and do that and do this. You got to weigh the costs and weigh the time. And you'll be the first one to say, because, as of this point, you're not reaping any financial reward from this. And how many hours have you put into it?
Yeah.
So it's not as easy a choice as you might think. And all the people that are doing it, look at the successful folks out there who have successfully made money on YouTube. And there's not that many.
Right.
Not that many. There are a lot of people who have gotten to the point where they're monetized, but they're not making nearly as much money as the time they're putting into it. It's because they enjoy it. So I would say if it's something you love to do and want to do and you enjoy that creativeness, then do it. If it's something that is going to turn into a job for you or a hassle or an obsession that takes you away from family or takes you away from what does what is proven to make you money, then maybe you shouldn't do it. So I'm just trying to give you honest feedback, and hopefully everybody takes it the right way. And if you don't, hey, I'm sorry. You can yell at me in the comments. I got thick skin.
So that's a really good answer. It's very helpful. And I said this was the last question, but I thought about something as he was responding. A lot of folks, Kevin, believe that starting a YouTube channel is going to actually help them sell more on eBay. Do you think that's true? Or
I think it's true in some sense. I mean, it has helped me sell more. I mean, let's face it. But here, it's helped me sell a bunch of Enaman. Okay? The other stuff I've sold to viewers, quite honestly, they would have sold eventually to somebody. Yeah. Right? So it's allowing me to turn over inventory a little bit quicker and store a little bit less. But there's a few things maybe that would not have ever sold unless a viewer bought them. Right. But I sell 99% of the things I list, and I did before I had a YouTube channel. Yeah. So maybe the speed of it is a different, I wasn't going to, I don't know how long it would take me to sell 1,500 Enaman without the show. Probably until I was, 80. Okay. So that's not what I'm talking about. But in general, I don't think you sell a lot more. I would say on the margins, yes, but the bigger the show, right? I mean, if you watch people like John Cincinnati Picker, he's going to sell items to viewers every time he does a video, 4 or 5 or whatever, but he's selling 30 things. So it's not, trust me, that money is not worth the time you're putting into it. It just isn't. I spend almost as much time on YouTube as I do on eBay. Yeah. And imagine if I had all that time to spend on eBay. People don't believe this. I made less money this year on eBay, significantly less money on eBay this year than I did last year. And it's really simple. It's because of this. It's because of the time. So, and that's including the Enaman sales. So, but I enjoy it. I love it, and it's fun. And
you gotta love it. You really do. You gotta enjoy it. That just takes all the other part away, don't it?
It does,
the hard
sure.
work. Well, guys, there you have it, straight from a pro. He's been doing this for, again, what was it, 20?
I think 2001 is when I started. If you look at my eBay start date, I think 2001, so 19 years.
So a lot of experience here, we're talking. And I'm sure if you follow his channel, you get so much wisdom about this whole process, and
maybe what not to do.
Yeah, but he's humble, and that's why we like him. He's humble. He'll give it to you straight. So, but Kevin,
I have to be. My wife won't let me do anything.
Well, Kevin, we really appreciate it again. Thank you for coming by. We really think that, someone like me, I'm sitting here interviewing him, and I'm listening to your answers, and I'm learning as I go as well. So that's what it's all about. So, guys, this is Patriot Picker, and this is the Commonwealth Picker. And we'll catch you guys again when? On the flip side.